Good evening from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Lowell Joseph Gallen, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in New York State in 1981 and now celebrating our 40th anniversary. I would like to welcome our viewers and listeners worldwide and our live Zoom studio audience to this evening's program in our Root and Branch Association Limited English Language Conference and Lecture Series, broadcasting from Jerusalem, Israel. And now celebrating the start of our second quarter century. For our first quarter century, from January 1995 until December 2020, we want to thank, as we always do, the Orthodox Union Israel Center on Karen Hayasad Street for providing us for so many years with a warm and wonderful home to develop our lecture series. And especially, we want to thank old friend and colleague, the educational director emeritus and founder and editor-in-chief emeritus of the Torah Tidbits, Mr. Phil Chernovsky, for making us welcome there all those years. Today is Thursday, May 20th, 2021 in the Gregorian calendar, and the 9th of Sivan 5781 in the Hebrew Israelite calendar. After nightfall in an hour, it will be the 10th. We are broadcasting from the land of Israel, city of God, Jerusalem, hill of the priests, Givat Hanania Abu Tur, overlooking Mount Moriah, where the third and final Israelite temple of Jerusalem, we believe, will soon be under reconstruction and stand forever, as per the prophet Ezekiel's vision. Please see the biblical book of Ezekiel, chapters 40 through 48. I'm going to introduce my colleague now, Dr. Les Glassman, who is the program chair for the Root and Branch Association, who will introduce our friend and colleague, Professor Aher Matathias, who will speak on Greek responses to Gush Katif, as well as memories of life in Greece. And now I hand over the mic to Dr. Glassman, who will introduce Professor Matathias.
Thank you, Lowell, and it is a great honor and a privilege to introduce our esteemed Professor Aher Matathias. And Aher, you were born in the mountains near Pilion in Greece, near the city, the fourth largest city in Greece, Volos, in December the 3rd, 1943, Erev Chanukah. So a real Chanukah miracle baby. And to be born in the middle of the Shoah, the Second World War, actually in Greece, where if we look at the numbers, in Greece, unfortunately, it has one of the highest percentages of Jews that were deported and were killed. You really are a miracle. And we are absolutely delighted that you are part of the Root and Branch, and you've contributed so much to so many of the events. And it is such a privilege to have you this evening and to hear your insights into, first of all, how you were saved in the Shoah in Greece, and the current situation vis-a-vis Greece and Israel and the Jewish people. So without any further ado, we are so excited and we anticipate your talk. So I really want to thank you again. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Les, and thank you, Lowell, for making me part of your expanding group of providers, producers, participants, sharing wonderful insights on a myriad of topics, really. I wake up and I said to Anna, do I have a Zoom session today with Root and Branch? And of course, I'm delighted to come forth and not substitute, but just add to today's program that included another guest as well. Um, our relations, the Jewish, Greek Jewish relationship with Greece is fraught. It continues to be. However, it is advancing, and nowhere do we see better relationship than the period of the last. Well, almost 2 years. In July 7 would be 2 years under the younger Mitsotakis regime. Keep in mind that his father was also Konstantinos Mitsotakis. The son is Kyriakos Mitsotakis. His sister is Dora Bakoyani, a former foreign minister. You know, again, one of the elements of Greek society is deep-seated patriarchy and even nepotism, sometimes, of course, to the detriment of progress, social progress. But this family has been extraordinarily progressive. And his father, as I said, Konstantinos Mitsotakis, in 1990, with the new democracy, more center right government, recognized Israel de jure for the first time after the 1948 war. When it was de facto, they had to recognize it because it was a fact. But in 1990, they recognized it officially at the embassy level and exchange ambassadors, and they continue to do so. Uh, Periodically, prior to that, there were some difficult times, especially in 1980, when the PASOK, very left of center party, socialist party, as a matter of fact, it had the word socialism in the name PASOK, was led, and the prime minister was um, um, Papandreou, Andreas Papandreou. Andreas Papandreou was the son of Yorios Papandreou, who was the prime minister in Greece during the war and periodically in the post-World War II period. And after Andreas Papandreou, his son George, the younger Papandreou, had a stint as prime minister in the early 21st century. I give you all of that to understand that in 1980, Papandreou made a radical but not unexpected turn to embrace Palestinians and the Arab cause, and to declare that the Jews and Israel were less than honorable segments of society. What did he do? When in 1982 the Yasser Arafat was expelled from Lebanon and on his way to exile in Tripoli, his first trip was to Athens, where he was embraced by Andreas Papandreou as a hero to the world for his opposition to imperialism, to Zionism, to Americanism even. Keep in mind that Andreas Papandreou made his reputation as an economist in the University of California for a spell, and but he was uh, socialist inclined, but he became rabidly anti-American after he returned to Athens. So moving forward now to the recent 2 years, increasingly there have been exchanges, military exchanges, diplomatic exchanges that brought the two countries closer together, closest than ever before. In fact, there have been military exercises over Greek waters, the Aegean and Crete. The base in Crete has welcomed Israelis, and also multilateral with the American armed forces involved, the Navy, for example. Keep in mind also that in Crete, there used to be an American base, naval base called Suda Bay. One of the first things, one of the, yeah, the first things that he did was, Andreas Papadero did, was to expel the Americans from the base, supposedly to show that he was even-handed. At any rate, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, his foreign minister is Dendias, Nikos Dendias, a very bright man, very thoughtful man, bilingual. He speaks English fluently, and he has today I heard the report, this was his fifth time visiting Israel. Can you imagine, in 2 years, 5 times? So which indicates both the concern and the interest in the Jewish state, but also to emphatically indicate that, along with President Biden, that Israel has a right to defend itself, and we should do all we can to assure that there is a amicable, if there is such a thing, termination to hostilities. Again, the question is how secure that ceasefire can be, and for how long. Um, so I'm really pleased, and I'm glad that I am heard through the medium of the Root and Branch Association, that I am ecstatic, well, short of ecstatic, but on the way to being ecstatic, that better relations are afoot between Israel and Greece, with consequences inevitably to society, to the strata in society. However, there is a problem. The perennial problem has been the press. The press is leftist by and large, um, uh, thinking that it is being fair, and has repeatedly castigated Israel's application of force, asymmetrically, as they call it, that they have no care for the lives of the Palestinians. Of course, they do not mention that the living shields that they make of their children, helpless to resist their parents, make them shaheeds, unwilling shaheeds, to end their lives before they they can develop into adulthood. Um, this is said. I do a lot of monitoring of the press there and here, and one example is what I just described, that a panelist in one of the panels in one of the channels castigated the Israelis as not being fair to their own citizens. Never mind that now we have the concern of a fifth column that was surreptitious, but now it may be developing muscle within Israeli society. Can you imagine 20% of the Arabs to be looked upon with extra suspicion? There was the Israeli lady who was interviewed on I-24 News, say, I can understand. I've lived next to an Arab family for 10 years, and we don't have close relations, but decent relations, and yet I see that they are aroused and they're attacking Jews. Just, it's inexplicable. So that was one panelist's view. What made me more less excited, but excited in the positive sense, was the reaction of one producer, the program director of the internet radio station in Astoria called Hellas FM. Hellas, of course, is the Greek word for Greece. So can you imagine? I have been in vain weighing in against them for years and years for their anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism and anti-Zionism. But here this week, I was astounded. I decided to listen for 10 minutes or so because I don't want my blood pressure to rise too quickly. And lo and behold, this Dimitris Philippidis got on and said, you know, it's time for us to stop demonizing Jews and Israelis. The problem of the world is not the Jews, you know, and it went on and on. I said, am I hearing correctly? And here is a quote from him. He said, in difficult times, we must stand up and express our solidarity to Israel. Israel is entitled to defend its rights. Hamas and the other terrorist organizations have no justification for their crimes. Greeks should stand on the right side of history, on the side of the Israeli people. I mean, this is incredible. I did not hesitate. My immediate, unhesitating response followed. And what did I say? Wow, late, sometimes, tragically so, but still welcome. Now, how about joining our campaign to have the church delete the reference in its dogma that positive Jews were guilty for the crucifixion? Also, the Greek government, after more than 73 years, must withdraw its vote against the birth of the Jewish state, then apologize to Israel and the Jewish people. Perhaps there is hope for a better coexistence after all. Let's discuss this possibility and make it happen. Jewish lives matter. That was the end. So, and apparently this morning before getting on with you, I see that he's still on the same wavelength. He persists in talking this way, which means that some of the more vehement anti-Semites and anti-Zionists in his audience will be less inclined to be vocal about it. And the thing that, of course, I have witnessed, since this is the experiences that I have, is that very frequently I hear Greek audiences tell me, Professor, we're not anti-Semites, we are anti-Zionists. I said, that is quite a leap. Do you know what Zionism is? Oh, well, it's that conspiracy, you know, it's what the protocols of the elders of Zion say. That you people are together, that you're united, that you are have inordinate influence and power in the world. I said, really? 13 million people control the fortunes of the world? If that is so, tell me, can you direct me, where can I go and cash in my and receive my slice of power? Where do I go? I need to exercise that power. I said, listen, I said, Zionism is the other side, anti-Zionism is the other side of anti-Semitism. Zionism is a simple concept, even you can understand. Zionism is acceptance, promotion, perpetuation, the expectation that the Jewish people deserve, must, and will have a homeland. just like every other people. And that makes you Zionist. And by the way, I referred to that to this Philippidis fellow, this program there. Do you know? I said to one of his friends that he declared himself Zionist. The big thing, of course, is for him and everybody in the Greek community, the non-Jewish community, to do so openly and dramatically, to say, we are Zionists with the Jews. We believe in Zionism. That's all. It's not a conspiracy. And you will not be excommunicated. Of course, uh, my appeal has always been to the publisher emeritus of the only Greek, bilingual actually, but it's mainly Greek language paper in America called the National Herald. And I said, you should have the courage to inform, to better inform and better educate your public by having pieces of mainstream journalism inserted to tell them that they do not have to fear Jews, that they earn their keep. Many of them are readily say, "Oh, my boss is Jewish," and yet they still have this uh, premonition that Jews will do them harm for some reason. Which brings me to other elements. Uh, Periodically, until the pandemic, every year, part of our vacation includes visiting Greece and my hometown of Volos because my in-laws live there. Until 6 years ago, it was the plural in-laws. Now it's my mother-in-law who turned 97 last week. However, last year I could not travel there because of the situation. Also, because I discovered I do not have a Greek passport. Through my connections with the consul general in New York, I managed to expedite acquiring a Greek passport for Anna, for my wife, so that she at least could go. And she went and visited. I and other Americans, perhaps later this summer will be better, have been excluded. Only people who carry a, um, a Greek passport may enter, or European passport. Uh, uh, and the Consul General asked me directly, would you consider getting one? I said to him and to anybody who cares, I have some prejudices of my own. And one is that I refuse to carry any document that bears a cross. So, for the same reason that may the people who produce Chevrolet cars forgive me, I refuse to drive behind a Chevrolet car that has a facsimile of a cross, even though it's supposed to be a bow tie. I know, but that's that's my peculiarity. I say I'm proud to have an American passport, and if Greece doesn't want me, I do not want it. So I have been excluded from the pleasure of seeing my mother-in-law. Thank God for FaceTime, because every day I see her, and thank God that she's relatively well. Now, that's one incident. Another incident is when the last time I was there, I always visit the National Bank of Greece, which is nearby our apartment in the Paralia. Paralia is the boardwalk. It's so beautiful. Morning swim in the sea, and then doing my errands. Invariably, every week or so, I go and get the euros converted to, I'm sorry, the dollars converted into euros. And they know me there very well. Or the directors, the tellers come and greet me effusively. They want to hear my stories. They frequently read my interviews in the local press. I don't know how they smell my presence, but invariably on the second day in Volos, my mother-in-law would receive a call and say, son, Seraco, the editor of Tachydromus called. You haven't come by the office. Okay. So I am known to give a perspective, a Jewish perspective, an American perspective on things. So they read me and they know me. Um, and there is bureaucratic red tape to even exchange the currency. So with triplicates, with paper, with signatures. So one teller directs me to the assistant manager. The assistant manager looks at my name and says, "Oh, is this Jewish?" I said, "Well, it happens to be Jewish, yes." Have you decided to accept the Savior? Come again? What do you mean? Well, you still haven't converted. You haven't seen the truth. Another assistant hears our conversation and goes to him and says, "Leave him alone. What are you talking about?" And I said to him, "Look, can you take care of your business? I have seen the light. I'm carrying the light, and I do not need any brightness." And so I leave. At the end, at another occasion, when my father-in-law was alive, we were invited to a wedding in a church because his friend, his childhood friend's daughter was getting married. So my in-laws were invited, so they took us along. During the ceremony, there seemed to be a large crowd, and there was perhaps some noise. To my astonishment, I didn't hear that since I was a child. The head priest shouts, "Quiet here, quiet here. Δεν είναι εδώ Havra Evreon." What? What? Quiet here. This is not a Hevra, a Kehillah, a Jewish temple, a Jewish synagogue. At the end of the ceremony, they made a procession, and we would greet the bride and groom, the parents, and the priest. So I approached him and I said, "There hasn't been any change, hasn't there?" He said, "What do you mean, son?" Uh, uh, I said, "That's what I remember growing up in Greece, that there was this perception that there is noise in a synagogue." I said, "That is prayer. That is communal prayer. That is singing. That is praise. Come, I beg you to come and see for yourself. You will be inspired." He said, I did not mean anything by it. It's just a social custom." Do you understand? Social custom. This is what is expected. I said, "Well, it's time to erase that." Let's go back even further now. The time is 1948. I was 6, 7 years old. No, 5 or 6. And my father was drafted into the Greek army because there was a military insurrection. There was a civil war going on since liberation in 1945, since the end of World War II. Actually, the liberation of Athens took place in 1944. Immediately, the leftists the communists that did a lot to liberate Greece from Nazism were fast afoot to make Greece part of the expanding satellite empire of the Soviet Union. The monarchists, again, don't think of them as being Democrats with a small d. They were part of the right wingers that brought on in 1967 the junta, the colonel's junta. But they were for the king. There was a monarchy at the time, and definitely opposed to the Soviet Union. Churchill had withdrawn at that time. Can you imagine? Here's an example where a country may be nominally victorious in war, but lose in the long run, because Churchill was not able, Great Britain was no longer the Great Britain of old, and had asked the United States to foot the bill, to step in and take over. And we did, of course, with the Marshall Plan and with the Truman Doctrine, particularly to withstand the onslaught of communist forces. Well, my father by that time had 2 children, a wife, and of course himself. So we had a young family, and he demanded and received permission to bring his family to live on the base, because only through such strategy could he be assured that we would have regular food, or food on a regular basis, I should say. But because of his, and in addition, because of his education, he was able to write well and to speak more than one language, several languages. He became an adjutant or an assistant to the major on the base. Fine and dandy. There came a time when the major wanted his service, and he calls out, Evrei, Elado, Jew, hey Jew, come here. My father pretended that he did not hear correctly or well, and the major repeated this. My father, may rest in peace and of blessed memory, has given me many, many things. One of the things is to stand and to be proud of who he is and what he is. He approaches him and says, you say this phrase again, and I will report to your superior. Immediately, he started shaking. No, 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 don't do that. I did not mean it. Again, it's part of the social jargon that we're accustomed whenever we encounter Jews. The point is that he stopped, and my father got discharged honorably at the end of 49 and continued to his life. Going back though to my my birth, it was 1943, but in 1940 there was an invasion. There was an arrangement of the Axis powers, the 2 European powers, Italy and Germany, that Italy would take care of the southern part of the Balkans, the southern part of Europe, while Hitler pursued the great conquest of Russia and the Eastern Front. So on October 28, 1940, the ambassador of Italy approached, demanded to see the dictator, Ioannis Metaxas, again, a right-wing neo-fascist, actually a fascist dictator, who studied in Berlin and was admirer of Germany, But at the same time, Greeks may be many things, but they're also very, very extremely patriotic. So when the ambassador said, on behalf of my leader, Mussolini, please lay down your arms and permit our forces to enter your country and occupy it, Metaxas said no, which the famous Ochi. It's in Greek, it's spelled O-X-I. Ochi means no. And that became, of course, a cause célèbre the following day and for the ensuing a few weeks that the resistance and the war lasted. Even though they were undermanned and undergunned, the Greeks were able to not only repel the invasion, but actually, as they say, liberate southern Albania, which they considered to be part of northern Epirus. Epirus is one of the prefectures of Greece. Well, the embarrassment was too severe to take, so German forces had to be diverted from Stalingrad and other areas to subdue the Greeks, and they did. To this day, if you engage any even a minimal of discussion with Greeks about the heroes of World War II, or who was the dominant force in the eventual victory of the Allies, they will unhesitatingly say not Churchill, not Eisenhower, not anybody but the Greeks, because they were able to force the Germans to deploy their troops into the Balkans. At any rate, there were raids in Greece, and one of those raids took place in Larissa. Larissa is a big city north of Volos, where, as I mentioned before, two Jewish friends, very close friends. One was named Moshe Frances, my future father-in-law, and another was Asher Matathias. Yes, the same Asher, only my uncle, the brother of my father Jacob. The two of them heard the sirens. They sought shelter, but Moshe had to complete a letter. So he urged Asher to go on and he will follow. While Asher was crossing the square to go to the shelter, a bomb found his head, killing him instantly. Um, Eventually, the country, as I said, was conquered. There were Bulgarian, there were Italian and German occupation zones. The German occupation was most detrimental to the Jews of Salonika up in the north in Macedonia. There, their demonic plan to exterminate them took place, took hold, and with the cahoots or the uh, poor guidance of their Rabbi Tzvi Koretz, they gathered. They were taken supposedly for a trip, relocating their labor to Poland, only to be exterminated. 55,000 were exterminated. 1,200 Jews survived to be received poorly when they returned by the taunting remark, "Why didn't Hitler complete the job? Why are you back?" Um, uh, it was very, very difficult. And that included my mother's two brothers and my mother's parents. So I have a personal connection to the Holocaust in the terms of loss of lives. Uh, uh, when the news of this came to Volos, the Metropolitan Joachim, the German consul Helmut Scheffel, and the chief rabbi Moshe Pesach conspire to bring about the escape route for some Jews, for many Jews, into the mountains. It was there that my parents, with a very pregnant wife, uh, uh, followed the directions of a couple of a saintly couple, the Froso and Yorgos Stamos, who had property in the mountain to hide them. And there on December 3rd, I was born with not much fanfare. In fact, we did not have mohel, so the Brit Milah was delayed not by 8 days, but by 8 months until liberation. Um, and it was difficult, but yet it was the kindness of the few Greeks, non-Jewish Greeks, sort of redeemed the reputation of Greece as a whole. There have been examples, Damaskinos, Chrysostomos, Evert. These are all leaders of the time, Greek leaders who encouraged the population to extend themselves and protect their Jewish neighbors. Some did, as I always say, not enough, not enough. After all, 87% of the Greek Jewish population vanished. 95% of Denmark's Jews survived. The difference being that Jews in Greece were always looked on with skepticism, with doubt about their loyalty to the state, and of course, as the pariahs of a dogma, the personification of the dogma that says you are the killers of our Savior. Uh, with this in mind, we have come a long way to today, where that is in good society, in nice, even Greek society, you can, unless you're a Golden Dawn party member, you can't very openly say that Jews are evil. It was said. That was precisely what was said, and maybe it continues to be believed by the most celebrated composer, Greek composer today, at 90, perhaps 95 or 96, still alive and still offering his not always well thought out uh, political opinions. And his name is, of course, Mikis Theodorakis of Zorba fame. He notoriously and nefariously stated, maybe 20 years ago, Jews are not uh, are not the root of all evil. Jews are evil. Can you imagine? This is somebody who has influence in Greek public opinion, and he served a term as the Communist Party's deputy in the Hellenic Parliament. By the way, it was during Andreas Papandreou that the defunct until that time and disbanded an illegal Communist Party was permitted to rehabilitate itself and enter the mainstream. And it is remarkable that it is among the four largest parties in Greece. I did not know growing up in Volos that that area has been called the red, the equivalent of the, the the red areas of Bologna in Italy, you know, which perennially votes communist. It was red. It was red. It was also populated by people from Asia Minor when they were expelled in 1922. So um, maybe it's a reaction to that, but those people also were rapidly anti-Semitic for being for seeing Jews as their competitors. Asia Minor people were very progressive. They lived in the Turkish Empire, very prosperous. They were on the par with the Armenians. So when in 1915 the Ottoman Turks turned on the Armenians with their genocide, they did not discriminate among between Orthodox Christians. They also killed many Greek nationals. And in 1922, as a result of the great idea, can you imagine Eleftherios Venizelos, who was then the prime minister, had the notion of liberating, as they often say, even today, liberating Asia Minor from the Turks, including Constantinople. They refused to call Constantinople Istanbul. They refused to call Smyrna. They refused to call Izmir Smyrna Izmir. Izmir is the Turkish word for that beautiful city, very large city in Asia Minor. So they had initial success in the hinterland, invading Turkey in 1922, only to find miserable. It's called the catastrophe. They had to put their tail between their legs and evacuate. Some of them even drowning as they tried to make it to frigates to bring them to the Aegean Sea Isles of Greece. So to this day, now the new thing is the issue of North Macedonia. You may not know that there is an issue, but Macedonia is a region in Greece, but it's not only Greece. It's a region that it also occupies part of Bulgaria and part of what used to be called Macedonia proper as an independent country, part of the former Yugoslavian republic. Well, when Yugoslavia broke up, Macedonia became independent, but it did not sit well with the Greeks. Why? Because supposedly in the Greek mind, the Macedonians had irredentist visions of someday coming, because Macedonia proper is landlocked, coming down to take Greek Macedonia, including, of course, Salonika, so they can have an outlet to the sea. This is all a kind of design that some Greeks, the more nativist Greeks, have in mind. Well, the Tsipras, the former, prior to Mitsotakis' government, was Alexis Tsipras, a former communist who became part of a very radical leftist group, eventually came to an understanding with Macedonia proper. And what did they came to this solution? Let's call that North Macedonia. And that's it. Well, there are many Greeks to this day who refuse, who believe that Tsipras committed treason for getting rid of the non-issue about the name. So in some Greek minds, they do not only posit North Macedonia has been part of Alexander the Great's legacy, but also Bulgarian Macedonia, also Istanbul, because that's where the Hagia Sophia, the church that turned into a mosque, is located. That's where also the Patriarchate, the Greek Patriarchate, is located. And why? And as I ironically and sarcastically relate to them, why stop there? If if you are intent on occupying all of Alexander's domains, let's go to Egypt. Let's go to the Middle East. Let's go to Iraq. Let's go to Persia. Let's go to India and even Afghanistan, where he met his untimely death at the age of 33. This is the how Greek society is permeated with notions of grandeur that are groundless, including the 200th anniversary that was celebrated on March 25th. Yeah, March 25th. They believe that they were the fount of liberation movements. You know, that there hasn't been a liberation movement before the Greek Revolution and since, you know, that we are so unique. And of course, with a legacy of ancient Greece, it is very difficult to bring them down to earth to realize that today's Greeks have very little, and that's being charitable, very little to do with ancient Greeks. The ancient Greeks were broad minded, had a lot of good relations with Jews, and perhaps that is the good thing that can be revived today. But to say that they are the inheritors, it's a world civilization that we're living, and the Greek contribution is a major part, but it's not the only part. Everything else is not Greek imbued. You know, there have been tremendous Western advances, and as I never hesitate to remind them, it would have been so much better had Greece long time ago, ideologically and doctrinally, turned to the West to imbue enlightenment, the Renaissance, the Reformation.
Asher, Prof,
Yeah,
can I just interrupt? Because I'm still going to keep it going, but I have to be
go ahead.
in South Africa. I just want to show you something, what you spoke about. And I mentioned this last time. So this is a joint issue of stamps that Greece issued with Israel to celebrate 25 years of diplomatic relations. This was 5 years ago between Israel and Greece.
That's it.
Now it's 30 years, but this is, you have the port of Haifa and the port of Thessalonica. And there's a Greek stamp and there's an Israeli stamp with the same motif of Haifa and Salonika or Thessalonica. And what you said, it's true. To think only 30 years ago did Greece did establish relations with the state of Israel.
Yeah,
So what you said has been, it's so true. So it's actually quite amazing. Yeah, it's really quite amazing.
This is what Dimitris Philippidis put on his statement.
Sure.
Greece stands with Israel.
Wonderful.
I mean, this
It's
is
lovely. So
phenomenal.
I just want to mention Kalimera. Say hello to you, Kalimera.
Kalimera,
And I'm
Kalimera, Kalispera.
Lol, I have to leave, but I'll still keep the Zoom going. Okay. So all the very best. You'll be together with Lol, and I'll be listening to it on the YouTube when you're finished. But really, thank you so much, Prof. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. And I'm glad that I could fill some airtime productively. Thank you. Am I to continue or? Oh yeah, I like the nod from Lowell. Okay, I apropos of this flag, the twin flags of Greece and Israel, a colleague of mine at the university, responding to my response of congratulating Philippides, this producer, he said, she said, I agree with you 100%. I am apolitical, but yesterday a friend at lunch told me off because I'm not condemning Israel. She's German Catholic American conservative and is against me. A mess. As an independent person, I am loyal friends to the end of my life. Loyal to you, Asher, and the many Jewish persons who have helped me through my life. I mean, that's really nice. That's again, I don't know. I sometimes feel that maybe history is certainly is on our side in terms of that dogma, the Greek Orthodox dogma, and the retrieval of the no vote against the birth of a Jewish state. But now I'm feeling that perhaps a situation like the Gaza tragedy may accelerate it and accentuate the need for decent nations to take dramatic steps to erase some of the preconceptions about Jews, about religion, about Israel. You know, uh, I'm mindful of another concept which I developed in our last discussion on Greek Jews, and that is that no nation has prospered, has advanced, that has also persecuted Jews. Uh, and I'm mindful of the 2015. Remember 2015? A Jewish store in Paris. There was a murder. There was what was it in 2015? A massacre at a kosher supermarket in Paris, which is far from an isolated incident now, unfortunately, in France, and which caused the exodus of a bunch of Jews. You know, France has about 500,000 Jews. A bunch of them left shortly thereafter to go to Israel and elsewhere, maybe the United States. And then Prime Minister, yeah, Manuel Valls, if you remember, made a most moving appeal that they should not leave. And then he concluded, France will not be France without its Jews. Incredible that it will betray the notion of what the French Republic is. Égalité, fraternité, equalité. I mean, that is the kind of statement that is needed to be expressed by, I don't know, Orban of Hungary, the leader of the president of Poland, you know, any number of countries that are looking askance at their Jews and criticize Israel as a way of getting back or minimizing their Jewish contributions to their countries. Must we remember that if you want to know the decline of the Spanish Empire, the Spanish Empire decline, of course, ended in 1898 with the Spanish-American War, lost her colonies forever. But it began many centuries before. And I can say without contradiction that 1492 did not represent a high point in Spanish history. It began to decline, first with the expulsion, then with the Inquisition in the New World, then with the contest with the British Empire. Portugal also followed suit with Spain with the Inquisition and the expulsion. But where did it get? What did it get them? Eventually, there was revolution against them, and it was just untenable. Monarchies are not monarchies that are only dictatorial, that are only authoritarian, cannot long last. The British too, by the way, King Edward the First in what was it, 1260, I believe it was. He also had his own edict of expulsion that was recalled 350 years later by the Lord Chancellor, the dictator Oliver Cromwell, and they apologized. By the way, both Spain and Portugal took 500 years, but in 1992 and 1996, respectively, both Spain and Portugal rescinded the expulsion and issued an apology and invited the descendants of the crypto Jews and also the conversos and others to return and get even not only their citizenship back, but their passport. It's a nice symbolic thing. I recall that in 1992, exactly at the quincentennial celebration of the expulsion, Anna and I received a embossed invitation from the Turkish consulate, to come and celebrate that the moment that the Sultan Bayezid invited the condemned, you can say, expellees to his domain in the Balkans and in North Africa. I looked at Anna. I said, "Should we go?" "Yeah, let's go." And for the occasion, they organized a parade on Fifth Avenue in deference to the Jews, not on Saturday afternoon, but on Sunday. So lo and behold, we started walking down Fifth Avenue to go to 42nd Street, make a turn to go to the United Nations mission of Turkey for the reception. As we approach 42nd Street, what do we witness? Opposite us, cordoned off, was an area filled with Cypriots and Greeks protesting the Turks. I turned to my wife and I said, "Anula, my darling, look at this. Only in America would you find Jews, Greek American Jews parading in a Turkish parade, being protested by Turks, by Cypriots and our non-Jewish Greeks." We go into the reception, and another revelation. Turkish Cypriots and Turks, maybe it was a selective group, I don't know, speaking fluent Greek. I mean, I said to Anna, this is how people should be interacting. They have tried animosity. They are neighbors. What is the problem? Why can't they as Rodney King said in his time, why can't they get along? Get along. They have tried war, they tried hatred. What I say to them about the Jews is applicable for the Turks. Try a little love, try a little understanding, try a little empathy, try a little compassion. The people really, the two peoples are not that far apart in terms of genes. There has been so much interaction over the years. Unfortunately, some negative elements have seeped into the Greek character, such as corruption, the element of bakshish, the xenophobia, the fear of the other, the stranger, um, uh, corruption. I mentioned corruption, nepotism, and sexist ideology. The misogyny. Somehow you are better if you are born a male, and you're better if you are you're best if you're a Greek. By the way, there is this emphasis on purity of blood. I mentioned that in another conversation when I encounter a um, a listener to my lecture. After my lecture, approaches me at the Stathakio, which is the cultural center in Astoria, and says, Professor, and of course he was speaking only Greek, because I learned that he only speaks Greek. He says, I'm here 30 years, and I'm proud to say I have not learned English. I speak Greek. I am a pure Greek. I said, stop right there. The last person who said he was aiming to make his country pure cost us 50 million lives. Don't tell me that. We are a composite. Do a DNA test, and you will see. I don't know. I would not be surprised, Lowell, if you are 1 or 2 or 5% Sephardic. Who knows? I don't know. But the point is to have an open mind to the possibility. And what does it matter? Be whatever you can be. Live for yourself and for others. Know that we are here but for a brief time. Make the most of it. Live with understanding. Learn from each other. What can I say? I said it the other day that, Ecclesiastes, King Solomon said it well. Enjoy, fear God, love one another. Uh, I know it's difficult when you see it only one sided, and know that we were strangers in a strange land too. So we should not be so ready to think the worst of immigrants and refugees. It's amazing because of the way Joint Distribution Committee and Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society treated us, even though we were Sephardim, and they did not know what that concept was. Can you imagine? Yet they accepted us. They helped us. They transplanted us from Greece to America. And when they said, do you speak Jewish? My father was astounded and said, do you speak Ladino? And both of us did not know what the other meant. Today, we are less isolated. We're less prone to parochialism. And that is all to the good, I think. Uh, I remember, speaking of another vignette, being on the USS Constitution on the Hudson River, the Ellis Island had closed 2 years before, so we were not received at the docks there. But the INS, the Immigration Naturalization Service, came on board, set their tables to review the status of the immigrants coming that day, January 30th, 1956. And in due time, we approached the table, and the officer looks over the papers, he stamps them, he says, before I give you the final stamp and you can go out, let me ask you, what is this Matathias? You are starting over. You are born again. That was 20 years before Jimmy Carter had his epiphany of being born again. Don't you want to change your name, Americanize it? I looked at my father, and he gained such status in my eyes, my 12-year-old eyes, when he said very forthrightly, and you, sir, what is your name? Can you imagine a citizen, a common man, addressing the power of the state, an official? But he did. He had the gumption to do that. And the officer was kind enough to respond. He said very proudly to his tag, "This is it, Ms. Zavinsky." And my father said, "And this is a typical American name?" No, Liv Matathias. It's been in the family for generations. You know, it is so nice, so nice. It is through such beautiful memories that I am able to withstand sometimes the slings and arrows of life, and the challenges are always there. And I shall continue. Questions? Observations?
Asher, thank you for that presentation about Greece and Israel and Gaza and memories of life in Greece.
Yes.
As you know, if you have no objection for me, you are Zorba the Jew.
Yes, I
Of course,
use
the
that.
Greek Jew.
Exactly. I use
And we don't want any dancing in the aisles like that old ad. Now, how I work, my background is in radio, television, and print media and public relations.
Yes.
How do you know if an ad was good? It's very simple. If someone remembers it 30 years later, do blondes have more fun? A Lady Clairol blonde.
Remember that? Yes.
Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat. You have a friend to Chase Manhattan.
Where is the beef?
Where is the beef? Then you know the ad was good. So I made a reference, for those in the audience who don't know, to an Olympic Airways ad from the 1960s, I think, where someone puts on his little headphones and he starts hearing music and he starts getting up and snapping his fingers. And the stewardess said, please, the narrator, no dancing in the aisles. So we're coming to the end of our time now. And as you've discussed, and I can add, we're in the middle of a rocket war with Gaza and a little bit from Lebanon. So I want to wish Les is back now. Les usually concludes the programs.
I'm just
So
on
you know
another
what?
Zoom.
I'm
Okay.
going to defer to Les so he can do.
Mainly Yiddish being spoken.
Okay, so Asher, I just want to thank you so much for your presentation tonight. It's been absolutely such a treat and an honor to hear you, and we are so grateful to you. We really are so grateful to you.
Thank you.
All the very best. Thank you so very much, and we look forward to the next
Also, I
one.
just I just want to add one point which I'm reflecting on from what Asher said. I don't know if you heard these comments last while you were participating in your conversation with people in South Africa, that over time, it's very difficult to change long ingrained attitudes overnight. People can pretend to change, but to really change, this is not easy. And you've mentioned several examples of how somehow in some quarters in Greece, attitudes have been changing for the better. And that's very difficult when your whole religious culture is based on, the technical term is a supersessionist replacement.
Yes.
I have to add a note here. In fact, I'm going to write a blog about it. The less will take a little bit longer. I'm writing a blog. A blog is fancy, putting down my thoughts on paper, just in the blog, about a superstorm, but a super satanic storm. What is that? At this point in world history, I take the prophetic writings very seriously, prophetic history, we have a super satanic storm where several storm systems have aligned perfectly against Jews and Israel. I want to name what they are. There are not that many of them. Number one, you have supersessionist replacement Christianity. That's the main culprit. Roman Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, and State Church Protestant. Yes. Meaning, we're the new Israel, you're the old Israel, the curses go to you, the blessings go to us, and God is finished with you. You're cursed.
Right.
That's Christianity. That's till today, the default normative position. There are exceptions. In Islam, also, you have replacement supersessionist Islam, Sunni and Shiite, where, well, you didn't accept Muhammad, God is finished with you, and that's it. Now, there are exceptions, such as in Christianity and Islam, the small but growing Muslim and Christian Zionist movements in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Then you have a problem historically within the Jewish people, going back, if I want to use the technical terms, the mixed multitude, Erev Rav, that went out of Egypt with us, which runs underground, the Sitra Achra, underground traditions that pop up recently in the Sabbatian and Frankist movements, which are heretical, and also supersessionist and replacement heretical movements, which say that you're not the Jews, we're the real Jews, and our strange beliefs that Shabtai Tzvi is in the higher Sephira than God, and the bizarre, and you shouldn't be there. And all these groups, then you have recently one of the most dangerous of all, New Age Nazis. Now, I didn't say neo-Nazis, I said Nazis. And Nazism is a Gnostic religious movement. The New Age, the nice term, the New Age, Nazism was and is a New Age movement. It has a theology, it has doctrines, different from Christianity and Islam. But basically something like, if you go back before Atlantis, there were root races, and there's this satanic root race out of which came the 12 tribes of Israel. And Jesus wasn't a Jew, he was an extraterrestrial, he was an Aryan, and he came to the Jews, and they were no good, and they killed him. And this race, all of them agree, replacement and supersessionist, Islam, Christianity, New Age Nazis, and also the Sabbatian Frankist heresies within Judaism, that Jews need to disappear. You can disappear through assimilation, conversion, but Jews as a nation are meant to disappear. That's the soft final solution. The hard is, well, if you don't disappear, we'll help you a little with gas chambers, ovens, and ravines at Babi Yar, one or the other. Now, these movements, which represent a substantial part of the world population, have aligned in perfect storm. What's their problem? The God of Israel, the creator who created us all, chose a people. He gave them a Torah covenant, a land covenant, a people covenant. And in these traditions, we don't accept that. even if you were a covenant people, you're no longer the people and you were thrown out of the land. You have no right to go back. And you're not a chosen people anymore. Everybody will be chosen or equal. And when they strike at Jews in particular and the 12 tribes in general, that's another whole big topic. Who are we even talking about? They're striking at the God of Israel. Has no body, so I'll kill you. That's why Christians love to go over the crucifixion of Jesus story every year, because subconsciously it's, well, I want to get back at God for the crappy world I live in. I pretend I'm saved and redeemed, but I know it's not true. Just look out the window. So that reminds me of what I want to do to as many Jews as possible, because you represent that God. And in some Gnostic systems, well, there's the good God, and then there's the bad God of the demiurge of this horrible universe we're in. Now, what do these groups all have a problem with? You can't have any restored Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel of any kind. It's a slap in the face to their theological claims for a very simple reason, because they're false. Therefore, they must do anything to destroy Jewish sovereignty. Again, any kind of religious, secular, left-wing, right-wing, chicken wing, they don't want it. And that's what you see today with the attacks on Israel and the non-response or approval of substantial parts of the world, which is, let's get it over with, let's finish Hitler's work, or let someone else do it, maybe we'll have a moment of silence for you. Now, what this represents from a traditional Israelite Jewish Hebraic perspective is rebellion against the creator God of Israel. That's who they're striking at. And it's a battle of the gods, as it was between Elijah and the priests of Baal and Astarte and Moloch on Mount Carmel. And it is a battle of the gods, as it was in Egypt between the God of Israel with a capital G and the little gods of Egypt with little g's. It was a battle of the gods. And it says in the text that in addition to destroying Pharaoh and his armies in the Red Sea, God punished the gods with little g's of Egypt. Now, these were considered to be real entities, not just rocks and stone, but actual entities and beings with real power. And he punished them too. What form the punishment took, that's another question. I don't know about it. So we're at that situation right now. It's very dangerous for Jews all over the world, because sooner or later, when you keep talking this way and putting the art and the music and everything, sooner or later, someone's going to strike at some Jew down the streets. Well, I heard you were a reptile, or you're really an alien monster and in human form. And well, I heard that video, or read that book. And then, of course, the people who write the books and make the videos, if they're smart, say, well, I'm against violence against Jews. That they have this little disclaimer. The more extreme one says, no, go ahead and do it. But in general, I didn't say that. Right. So in such an environment, what Aher, you are describing, that against such a trend in the art, in the religious art, the religious music, going back centuries, that there's any development in a positive direction is quite remarkable. So we always want to, especially with the Root and Branch Association, focus on anyone who does anything right anywhere for whatever reasons. Right. And you've just described some of them. So now Les apparently had to go again. He gave his farewells, salutations. I'll add my own then. Want to thank you for speaking. Sure. And so glad that Les and I could participate in your talk on Greek response to Gaza crisis and memories of life.
Thank you for the gist of the talk. Very nice. A nice way to wrap it up.
And we want to thank our viewers and listeners worldwide. And again, where are we? When are we? It is Thursday, May 20th, 2021 in the Gregorian calendar. And now that nightfall has come, it is the 10th of Sivan 5781. We are broadcasting from the land of Israel, city of God, Jerusalem, hill of the priests, Givat Hanania, Abu Tur, overlooking Mount Moriah, where we believe that the third and final Israelite temple of Ezekiel's vision will soon be under reconstruction and stand forever. Please see the biblical book of Ezekiel, chapters 40 through 48. And now
nice
I want to
way
wish
to segue to Shabbat.
Amen. And Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat
because tomorrow
Shalom.
night we start Shabbat and Parshat Naso. So good night to everybody.